This video I'm going to talk about a quick mod I made to this UT61E. One of the basic features that the UT61E is missing is the backlight. This ES51922 actually has a backlight controller built into it. This pin is the backlight control signal. Normally you would tie this to ground, and then there's this backlight output. This would go to your transistor driver that actually turns on your LED. And then the chip can be strapped for, I think, 60 or 120 seconds maybe. It's in the data sheet, but basically it's got a timer built into it. The problem is there's not an extra button that we can use. One of the things people have done is put a small microcontroller inside of the meter, and they'll tie this in with the switches, and it'll allow them to control all the other features of the meter, including the backlight. Another way people have done it is to add a small touch switch controller, and so then when you touch the case or something, the light will turn on. I had thought about just using the hold button, and the reason I thought about the hold is, first of all, it's kind of a pointless button, and it doesn't have any other feature than hold. What I was thinking is you could put an RC network into the backlight input, so as you push the button down and you hold it for a certain length of time, that would activate the backlight, and then you would quick push it, and then that would deactivate the hold. It's really kind of a hokey setup, and I decided against that. So let me just show you what I did. This is the bezel that came off of 5KY's original UT61E that I tested, and this is the light pipe that came with my brand new meter. You can see the reflective tape here. On the 61D model, there were two LEDs that were mounted to the circuit board that stick up and they shine out right into these sections here. So what I've done is I've taken two LEDs and I've epoxied them into the foil here, and I've built my circuitry right on the back side of this. I added a small piece of plastic between this and the main circuit board. I also built the circuitry away from any of the high voltage areas on the meter, and that's why if you look at my meter, you really don't see any mods on here. The only thing that is really showing is this little yellow wire, which is Teflon, and that's really it. So if you look down between, you can't even really see the circuitry, I guess, with the camera. It's packed up in there. Actually, there's not a whole lot to it. So if we look at the circuitry itself, then I opted for a pretty simple approach. I'm just taking power off of the 9-volt battery, and I feed that through a resistor, and this is the negative side of the battery. So I got a PNP and an NPN and a small photoresistor here. So as photons begin to strike this thing, this guy turns on or gets a lower resistance. So as the light intensity goes up, the resistance goes down. And as that resistance goes down, then we starve the base, which turns off the collector current. And this PN junction up at the top, again, that starts to turn off. And then the output here drives our LED backlight. So I have two LEDs in there and just a resistor there to limit the amount of current going into it. So this main supply doesn't come directly off the battery. This comes off a V switch. And that's this point here. So we have the main battery stack right here. And you can see it goes through this main switch, and this drives this V plus pin. And when we look at the circuit board, we can see right here, that's this V plus pin here. So that's a switch power pin. Alright, so looking at our meter, this is the sensor. So what I've done is I've drilled a small hole right here, and that's where we get the light from. So I took 5KY's meter which still had this lens intact, and I dremeled out one of those lenses, and I press fit that down inside of this hole, and you can see it right there. Again, we just have to make sure that we didn't contaminate anything. So let's just go ahead and we'll put this back together. Okay, let's compare the two backlights. So we would manually hold down the backlight key to turn it on and off. So on this meter, I'm just going to slowly place my hand. I'm basically casting a shadow across it. You can see how it's just changing the brightness of that. I'll just show you with the lights off. Again, we'll compare that with the Bryman. So on this meter again, turn on the lights and everything will turn right back off. It's interesting, you can see how fast that responds. You can see it doesn't really affect the measurement. Let's try it in capacitance mode. So this will be our 150 picofarad. And let's go ahead and see. You can see how sensitive this is. Just a little bit of a shadow, it'll start to turn up that backlight. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe you found it helpful. Later.